So there's been an update since my last top 10 running back redraft, fantasy football running back ranking show. And Devon Achane decided that he was going to put on about 10, 15 pounds. And we've already talked about this enough. I don't need to go over in extreme detail. But Achane decided he was going to gain what looks like about, 10, 15 pounds. Now, the reason I'm making an extra video here is because the updated rankings were embedded in the middle of a 2.5-hour live stream last night. And I thought, let's just go ahead and hit it again. But I'm going to hit it from a different perspective too. I'm also not only going to show you or talk about why I moved these guys around, but a little bit as to why McCaffery's all the way down at number 5. And these are my redraft rankings. Last night I showed my dynasty ones to kick off the show, and the dynasty ones were on screen. The dynasty rankings for an hour and a half. I kept going back to it, and it didn't say dynasty on it, so that was my bad. I felt bad after that. To clarify, we re-ranked it at the end, and I just wanted to come in here and do a fresh little retake on it. Let's get into it. So top 10 running back rankings update from the Devon Achane lifting and becoming what looks like a Kyron Williams size type player, a Priest Holmes size type player, 5'9", 204, 205 pounds instead of 5'9", 189, soaking wet. Big difference. The Fantasy Football Show updated top 10 running back ranking show post Achane breaking news and me moving McCaffrey to 5 show begins right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
So this is a live premiere. We're not actually live right now. And the chat's live. I'm in the live stream talking to you guys live in the chat. But this is called a premiere where I record it ahead of time and then drop it. So you're looking at Bijan Robinson, number 1. That hasn't changed since my ranking video. And if you didn't go back and watch that, quick little update or a quick little recap as to why I'm going to put Bijan number 1. Number 1 running back, 2024 fantasy football, finished as running back number 9, despite an absolute travesty and misuse in terms of workload for him. This is a Saturn man, by the way. 976, 4 touchdowns on the ground, 487, 4 TDs through the air, 8 total scores, 1463 and 8 touchdowns is not a bad total yardage number and total touchdown number when you consider the misuse. Running back 9. Imagine what he's going to do under the Kirk Cousins leadership, stretching the offense. London, Pitts, the potential of drafting another rookie at this number 8 overall. We don't know what they're going to do. Wide receiver, could it be a Doomsday? Could it be Neighbors? Could it be someone of that caliber? They even met with Brock Bowers, but this will be very, very intriguing as to how we move forward with Bijan Robinson in the regular population of people, because we have him so high. We've had him so high. There's a natural instinct for people to be like, I don't want to go down this road again. But I'm telling you, I'm feeling like this is going to be all resolved. Every feeling we had, every expectation we had walking into 2023, we're going to see met in 2024. He's hungry. He didn't seem very vocal last year. I even sent Bijan on a lap on my show because he didn't say, hey, give me the ball, feed me. And that kind of, in a way, made me feel like he didn't have that dog in him, at least as a rookie. I know he did. He's a very articulate, sharp kid. Great determination, great work ethic, but I did want to see him go, give me the damn ball, and he didn't. Well, this offseason, he said, I'm going to run for 2,000 yards. And while we know he's probably not going to run, he could, but while he's probably not going to run for 2,000 yards, the reason isn't because he's not capable of it. He totally is. It's going to be because he's going to be asked to do a whole lot of reception work and a lot of divided workload. So think of something along the lines of my projection I had on screen a second ago. I think is pretty darn accurate. I think 2024, 1,400 yards, 5.2 a carry, 12 touchdowns on the ground, 69, 68, 75 receptions, something around that total 650 receiving, 5 to 6 tutties. Sum total of really like 15 to 17 touchdowns is what I would expect. I really believe he's going to have running back 1, running back 2, or running back 3 total numbers at the end of the year. I think he leads the league in total yards for rushing, receiving, and I think he leads the league in total touchdowns, or at least one of those, and then he's having a cup of coffee with the other category. There's just not a real hesitation as to who my number 1 running back is, but that's for redraft and dynasty. This is redraft, but that would be for dynasty as well. Does that mean I draft him number 1 overall? No. And so that's kind of why I wanted to come back and do an update show, because I feel like a lot of people were left with questions about, Smitty, where do you draft him? If you got him as number 1 overall, does that mean you're drafting him number 1? You've got McCaffrey down at 5. Does that mean you really draft McCaffrey right next to Achane or below Hall and Gibbs? And it's a tricky question because rankings are not what you draft off. Rankings are your guide as you navigate ADP. ADP data is given to you as a gift, and you get a suggested rank. And when you're drafting against somebody and you have a suggested rank sitting right in front of your face, you're drafting against 11 people, you're going to utilize that river of information to your advantage and manipulate it. So if you have Achane as your number 1 overall running back available, but he's ranked 5 on the running back list, you're not going to take him maybe right where you're on the clock right there right now. You're going to let, if you think he can fall, if his ADP tells you that he's going to be available at your next pick, you wait. So in the case of Kyren being my number 2, which we'll get to in a second, you don't draft him as the 2nd overall running back. He's going in round 2. He's going at the top of round 2, which is one of the biggest steals in fantasy football, if not the biggest steal in fantasy football. So please understand, rankings are different than where you take the player, and ADP dictates Bijan to go right around, he's running back, let's see here, he's going around 6 or 7 overall. So I'm looking at ADP data right now. I'm looking at an underdog draft right now. He's going around 6 or 7 overall, meaning he's, according to this right here, McCaffrey goes 1, Bijan or Breece Hall goes 2. So he is going to have to be your number 2 or number 3 running back off the board, and he very well needs to be a top 5, 6, 7 pick overall in order to get him. And that's a great place. It's not a reach. You're not taking him at his ceiling value. Again, he could be the number 1 overall touchdown getter and number 1 overall yardage getter. So my number 2 overall, and I'm sorry I haven't highlighted Bijan as I've talked about him, Kyren, my number 2 overall player. Looking at what he did last year, I'll go over this quickly because we have talked about it a lot in other shows, but this guy had 12 touchdowns in 12 games on the ground alone. He had 15 total touchdowns in 12 games. And if you extrapolate that across 17 games, it's 21 touchdowns at 16-20. It's running back 2 overall. It's just behind Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey and Kyren are head and shoulders above everybody if you extrapolate the data. This is a guy that's coming in hungry. He's a guy that's coming in mean. He's coming in without any competition from any veterans, and people predicted that you would see something like that happen where the team would bring in Henry, Barkley, Jacobs. They did not. So we're sitting here looking at a guy that has no competition. He's facing one of the weakest running back classes we've ever seen. So if that does enter the equation, I'm not worried. There's no rookie running back that's going to unseat him. Sean McVay loves him. I think he's working extra hard this offseason to get stronger, faster, bigger, and he's going to come in, and my prediction is he will win the rushing title. He'll have the most rushing yards in the NFL, and he'll have the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL. He'll have Bijan more total touchdowns, or they'll be neck and neck. He'll have more total yards, but Kyren will lead the league in rushing yards, and I think he plays, a majority of the entire season. So call it 15 to 17 games. I think he really does have a healthy year, and people start respecting him for what he is, which is, even in dynasties, top 2, 3, 4, at least top 4 running back in dynasty. He's my running back 3, 4 in dynasty. He's my running back 2 here in redraft, and this is a redraft ranking. Breece Hall, number 3, could easily be number 1. Any one of these top 4 guys here, Bijan, Kyren, Hall, Gibbs, could be the number 1 overall running back in redraft. any one of them could be the number 4. They're really volatile. They're very easy to mix and match. And the only thing I'd say about this side, the Bijan Kyren side, is it feels like volume will not even be remotely close to a concern. Hall shouldn't be, as long as A-Rod stays healthy. But there's just a slight hesitation as to, Aaron Rodgers coming back from the Achilles. And they've improved their offensive line. Things are going to get better. They could draft Brock Bowers at 10. This could be a really good season where Breece Hall could absolutely go absolutely crazy. So there's no real hesitation here at all. It just comes down to the fact that I really love the guaranteed volume. There's no hesitation whatsoever. Here it's just more about, can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy? And we've seen him do well even with no quarterback, but would that be something you could replicate? Or would they just completely fall apart? Hard to say for sure, but I'm truly excited about what we're about to see unfold in New York this year under a healthy Aaron Rodgers. Garrett Wilson to the moon. Again, that might take Bowers, and Breece Hall finishes running back 4 or 5, depending on your scoring. Could be running back 2, 1, 3. And this guy right here, Gibbs, Monty's still in the picture, but I don't think he's a threat. But because he's still in the picture, there is some, limitation to getting the same kind of volume Kyren's going to get, or the same kind of volume Bijan's going to get. And you could throw Algier and misusage in 2023 in my face when I start talking about Bijan like that, but I don't think we're going to face that at all under Zach Robinson, offensive coordinator in Atlanta, who came from the Rams. I don't think we're going to see him using Bijan or using other running backs at all, really, other than to spell Bijan. So Gibbs, to me, I don't see a problem with him getting the workload that will give him running back 2, 3, or 4 overall value. But I'd say of these 4, he's the most likely to be 2, 3, or 4 versus 1. And Bijan, Kyren, and Hall have a strong chance at being number 1 overall individually. And so that's just kind of how I lean. But I love Gibbs. He's a top 4 running back. He's as likely to be number 2 overall as any one of these guys. I just think Kyren and Bijan have a slight advantage of being number 1 overall. Hall would be next on my list, then it would be Gibbs. And then we're left with Christian McCaffrey, where I think a lot of people, especially, Niner fans and old school fantasy football people that don't account for that 28-year-old, concern and threat, they're going to come at me and say, Smitty, how are you going to do this? McCaffrey was such a monster last year, but the problem is he turns 28. And we say it over and over. Eckler turned 28 last year. Look what happened. Coming off of 2022, his 2022 27-year-old season looked exactly identical to McCaffrey's. It was monstrous. Everybody said there's no way he's dropping off. He hasn't missed a beat. And he turned 28. He walked into this past season, and Eckler was a complete and total avoid for me. And what ended up happening? Well, exactly what we feared ended up happening. And Eckler fell off the face of the earth. Couldn't stay healthy, lost a step. And while he is special, he is different. He takes care of his body different. I know all the excuses people are going to throw at me. He's still 28. He still has more mileage than really any running back in the National Football League, especially if you look at it from the perspective of how much a percentage of the offense he is for his team. No running back, no player, I believe even, in the NFL competes with Christian McCaffrey for the amount of years he's played and being the highest percentage of his team's offense. No one competes with that. He's got so much mileage and wear and tear, and he did get hurt in week 17. Screwed me out of a bunch of best ball victories. I'm sure it did for some of you as well. Did get healthy during the playoffs, and then kind of left us with a better taste in our mouth in the playoffs than he did in the fantasy playoffs. But I still feel like we're at that tipping point where he is equally risky and he's equally risky on both sides. Like, to doubt him, huge risk. To believe in him at these values, 1, 2, 3, 4 for running backs in 2024, huge risk. It's an equal risk on each side, meaning you want to partake, you want to draft him in at least one league, but do not put all your eggs in one basket. The age of 28 is historically You're going to be right more times than wrong by avoiding a 28-year-old running back as long as they're 28 before the season begins, and he is. He will be. So, do what you want. He's certainly capable of being the number one running back in fantasy football, no doubt about it. And as you can see, I'm not calling him a bust. I'm worried about him, but you can't say, oh, you're completely, calling him a bust when you're ranking him 5 overall. It's just a tough business to be in, predicting a player's decline, trying to call it at the right time, trying not to call it too early. It's just a risky business overall. Banking on 28-year-old running backs, starting them, drafting them, especially 29. You can't use Derrick Henry. He's a complete outlier that doesn't, connect any dots or help us predict what's going to happen for a player. He's an anomaly that can't be tied in or brought into this conversation. Christian McCaffrey, take a few stabs at him. If you ever get the 1.1 in a draft, use that opportunity to get McCaffrey. And you're probably, if you drafted in 5 different leagues, you're probably only going to have 1.1 if you're lucky. So make that the league you got him in, and the other ones don't even consider it. Even if you had the 1.1 in 2 separate leagues and you had, let's say, a sum total of 3 redraft leagues that you play in. You don't play in best ball, let's say. You should play in best ball, Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty, where they double your first deposit up to $100. Just hit that link in the description of the video, and we draft on there during graveyard shifts at night. So you want to make sure you hit that link in the description and sign up using code Smitty. The link inserts code Smitty for you. But let's say you don't do best ball, and you just have 3 buddy league redraft leagues, and you got the 1.1 in 2 of those and the 1.12 in the other. Do not take McCaffrey in both the 1.1 drafts that you have. Don't take him in one, and then take Bijan or whoever you want. Hall, you could take a wide receiver. You could take Tyreek Hill. You could take CeeDee Lamb. Don't take McCaffrey in both of them because, like I said, he's ranking here because of the respect we got to give him. But because he's equal parts risky to avoid and equal parts risky to bank on, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So that would be my advice with Christian McCaffrey. Devon Achane comes into the picture with this news we just talked about a minute ago. Absolutely ripped, absolutely ready. Whoops, wrong image. Absolutely ripped, absolutely ready to take the league by storm. Absolutely ready to prove all the doubters wrong. Looks like a string bean on the left side. Look at those arms, those skinny little arms. And on the right side, he looks like he's at least 10 or 15 pounds heavier. And given he's already one of the fastest players in the National Football League, I don't care if he's slowed down a little bit. He's still going to be quicker than anybody. He's a track star. Put him on the field, he'll outrace anybody, outrun anybody, but maybe Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill's getting older, so maybe he's still faster than every single player on his team, even added weight included. Achane comes out of a season last year where he drops a pretty impressive 11 touchdowns, 800 yards rushing, 197 receiving, again, 11 total touchdowns from volume that only produced 24 running back 24 numbers. Pretty impressive to get 11 TDs and have very little yardage in comparison to other players ranking above him. I fully believe he rushes for like 1,100, 1,200, maybe even 1,300 yards with the added weight. This projection I made before the added weight, but even if we stuck with this, 1,100 yards, 6.5 a carry, 10 TDs, 55 receptions, 425 receiving, and 4 to 6 touchdowns. That's a 14 to 16 total touchdown season. That's a 15 to 1,600 total yard season, and 55 to 65 receptions, let's call it. This is a guy that by the end of his career could very well be 1, 2, 3 overall in yards per carry in the history of the NFL. He already is number 1 right now if you cherry pick the amount of carries that he's had. You start getting into more volume, like a guy that's played like 2-3 years and you need more carry totals to qualify, then obviously you can't partake in that kind of data. But once he starts getting more and more carries and you can lump him into the bigger guys that have played for multiple years, he's probably number 1 in the National Football League in yards per carry by the end of those 2 or 3 years when we're able to throw him into any conversation. This guy's amazing. And the haters seem to be coming from a place of doubt, that is driven off of regret. So if you didn't believe in him and didn't draft him the year prior, you're living in a previous world of regret. And in order to feel good about you missing on Achane and doubting him, and then he continued to do it, especially the people that doubled down during the middle of the season when he got hurt, and they said, look, he's horrible, watch, he won't be able to stay healthy. He comes back, gets his knee suplexed. Both injuries were knee injuries. They weren't injuries because he was too small. But people that doubled down on that, and they came into the picture saying, you know, I doubt him. I doubt he's going to do well. And he came back and exploded. Those people have they have one of two decisions to make. One of two directions they can go. Switch and change their attitude and go, never mind, he's great. Or they double down, they keep digging a hole, and they hope that he fails so they can go retroactively back and pat themselves on the back and feel better about their doubt. That's all there is to it. I don't, the added weight makes the injury concern go away. It should make it go away. Adding weight doesn't concern me. He's so young, he's going to learn how to play at that weight. It's not like he's a 28-year-old running back gaining 15 pounds and carrying a bunch of more weight. He's a young kid still learning the game and his body and the way that he controls the space around him. So to gain 10 to 15 pounds of NFL weight with NFL food, with NFL trainers, it's not a problem. It's not an injury risk. So he's just getting going at a young age. He can still grow. He's still growing. He's probably still growing, even if it's a quarter inch or a little bit. He's still growing. His body's not even adjusted to his current weight. So there's no risk of injury. This is not a 25, 26-year-old running back gaining 10 or 15 pounds. This is a kid that's still getting used to his own skin. And so put him in the NFL now, again, his second year, at 10 to 15 pounds heavier. I bet you he's going to take the league by storm, and that's why he's easily my number 6 overall running back. And I very, very strongly yesterday, I actually did, and then I switched it, contemplated putting him at least tied with McCaffrey or putting him ahead of McCaffrey. And I put him 6 because this is still very bold. I think it also sends a very bold message already. I don't know that I need to send an even bolder message putting him in front of McCaffrey. I think that sends the wrong message sometimes when I go too crazy and too bold. Sometimes I hold back my real feeling just a little bit to make sure I'm not driving people in such a crazy fashion into the sun. To get, even though I think we're going to nail this one, I don't want people I want people to hold back a little bit so they don't put all their eggs in one basket or start reaching for him in the first round because we're so excited. This gives me a little bit of room to say, hey, running back 6 actually can fall in the second round, people. So pump the brakes. Stop trying to put him in a place where we don't need to put him. We're recognizing that he has the capability easily to be one of the best players in the National Football League at the position. And there's no reason whatsoever to rush this thing. So this is a perfectly respectable, bold prediction at number 6. 7, Barkley and Philly. I think the Philadelphia Eagles under new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, they're going to get things back on track. And there's no way to contain Barkley. You saw what Swift did last year. Barkley's going to do that times 2. And they'll throw to him a little more. And then Kellen Moore will design some plays for him. But this is going to be such a good year for the Philadelphia Eagles getting back on track after losing Shane Steichen to the Colts. And they had a horrible situation last year. They did not have the right coaching pieces in place, and it fell apart, and it looked confusing, and there was chaos everywhere. I think Kellen Moore, despite his failings in LA with the Chargers, showed how good he is when you give him a bunch of potent weapons like in Dallas, and he's going to do that all again in Philly, and Philly's going to win the division and head to the Super Bowl in 2024. That's my prediction, and Barkley's going to be a big reason why. He could easily be top 5, top 4 in running backs, so this is almost like a de facto steal right here. JT, same thing. It all kind of relies on AR5 staying healthy, JT also staying healthy, and that's kind of why he sits here, but he's a value here. I love him here. I love Barkley and JT here. Even if you were to wait, let's say you had 12 and 13 picks and you could somehow get Barkley and JT, it's a fantastic duo. Gibbs and Achane, fantastic duo. Kyren and Gibbs or Achane, any combination of those two, or Barkley or JT, absolutely fantastic. And real quickly, And we should be highlighting Barkley here, sorry. But real quickly back to Kyren. He's a 14 to 15 to 16 overall player ADP-wise. I forgot to add that. That is the biggest steal in fantasy football because he could arguably be running back 1 overall. And he's going at 15, 16, 17. He's sometimes in the middle of round number 2. There's no bigger steal at the end of the day in 2024 than Kyren Williams in the second round as your second drafted player. But Barkley's very close to being top 8 overall for me. JT, the same thing. And you can get these guys. JT sometimes at the 12-13 turn. Barkley in the second round very comfortably. Same thing with Jacobs, who's now in Green Bay. Fresh version of Aaron Jones on a reset in Green Bay. He could be a top 5 to 6 running back. Jacobs, Barkley, JT, Jacobs are the best second round running backs you can find. And if you're finding yourself looking and combing through the data, trying to figure out what you're going to do if you're on the clock and you need a running back and you've gone wide receiver at the top of round 1 and you're sitting there looking at Achane, Barkley, JT, Jacobs, you're completely safe. JT, again, mostly in round 1. Barkley, Jacobs, and Achane are your second round running backs. Jacobs oftentimes falling to round number 3. These are your steals. There is no dead zone anymore because of where Achane and Jacobs are falling. Even Henry's in round 3, so you're completely covered across the board when it comes to running backs in rounds 1, 2, and 3. You're not left in a dead zone anymore. There was a dead zone developing a few months ago. It's no longer there in the ADP data. And as for number 10, look, Henry in redraft, I'll put here, Dynasty, he'd fall out. ETN, you got to look at ETN. This is all tied for 10. Everybody in this group here is tied for 10, just because there's no real way to give you an actual answer because there's so many different ways. And I like to do this with the 10 spot almost all my ranking shows just to give everybody more names. And you kind of hear where I'm leaning anyway. So I'm kind of giving you a number of options for 10, but I'm giving you the pick at the end of the day. My pick at the end of the day is going to be Henry. Or if it's like Braylon Allen in Dallas or something that you could definitely grab it. ETN's great. Rashad White. They're all great. They're all really great. I lean Henry, but I want you to have other names as well. But they're all going to fight for that 10, 11, 12, 9, 10, 11, 12 spot. But I feel very comfortable with my top 9. And then Henry, pretty comfortable with 10. But I just wanted to update everybody because there's some confusion yesterday. I was honestly... because I digest this stuff live. I'm not an Excel sheet Eric, where whatever I said in July, I'm going to hold true all the way to October and just, hey, the data said so. I'm going to tell you as the wind's blowing how I'm changing my mind. I'm adjusting and adapting constantly. Even 24 hours later, my rankings might change a little bit as I digest and just think on something. And on last night's show, I wavered between these two guys, but even more importantly, why I'm here doing this update is again because there was about an hour or two I kept referring to the rankings and I didn't switch them over to the redraft. I just didn't clarify that we were showing the dynasty, and CMC was sitting at 9 the entire time, and I just felt like somebody that didn't watch the 2.5 hour show didn't hear me at the end explain, hey, these were dynasty we had on the screen, by the way. So I wanted to come in and just kind of clarify, redo it, re-speak it. I know you guys love ranking videos anyway. So these, ladies and gentlemen, are my top 10 running backs redraft for 2024 post Devon Achane. Breaking news that he has gained at least 10 to 15 pounds and looks like a machine. So that's my reset. And many of these guys are on the Saturn men list.
The Saturn men.
One small step for man, one giant leap for Saturn.
Gibbs, Bijan, Achane, Kyren, Hall. Spaceman. My favorite is Kyren, given the ADP. Achane and Bijan, Hall, they're all my favorite, but Spaceman. They're all amazing. They're all amazing. The Saturn man list, as you can tell, there's a couple deeper guys like JD5, but that's becoming more and more relevant to talk about. Puka's a main guy. He's around 12, 13. He's been there 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's been there all offseason. So big name player. Kyren he's a big name player, but he's going around 2. So he's the steal here. But big name player in Puka, big name player in Gibbs. You're not stealing Bijan or Holloway, but This Saturn Men list is more about which big dogs do I trust the most, and let's throw in a JD5. Let's throw in an H-Hand who's really a second rounder, so he has a value. And then AR5's climbing big and fast, so, hard to even say how long he'll be even a value. And some of these players, we're going to have like a little ribbon by saying like, value is out the window now. Congrats if you got the value in time. Because at some point they're not going to look as attractive, right? And I don't want people to be like, hey, Smitty, these are not that good of a list because he's going really high. Well, yeah, same thing can be said like London.
He's on a shuttle to Mars. Mars men.
So London hit this list well before he started climbing. Kirk Cousins, all of that.
Loads dropping and spinning aimlessly in space.
McBride was in the 60s, late 60s. London was deeper than he's going right now, and these guys have climbed up. So these are perfect examples of where like the value is not there anymore, and we need to have some sort of indication that these guys have been on the list since like January, February, when there were very, very deeper calls. London was not even near the second round. McBride was in the late 60s, and just like he was like tight end 5, tight end 6, and it was that way all off season until the last month or two. So. We'll have some sort of indicator on there. Let me also leave you with a couple of the animations with these guys because they all are deserving of being celebrated. Let's go in order of Bijan, Kyron, Hall, Gibbs, and H-Hand. We've got animations for each one of them. Here they go, ladies and gentlemen.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special message from the Bruce's mother.
Get Bijan.
Hi, my name is Bijan Robinson. I like long walks on the beach. And, well, I also like scoring touchdowns.
He's Kyron, he's 7 feet tall, and he knows how to handle a ball. He's Kyron, he can take frowns and turn them upside down with his touchdowns.
I don't know if you guys noticed the lightning bolt on the bridge of his nose. He has a lightning bolt on the bridge of his nose. I mean, how much better can it get?
Brees Hall is 8 foot tall. He will always answer the mother freaking call. Don't let him fall. In the third, don't stall. Just give Batman the freaking football.
He's Brees. He's Brees.
He does a whole of a job. A whole of a job. A whole of a job.
Brees Hall, please report to the moon.
He does a jale bayo.
But the continuum of the gigawatt component structure of Jahmyr Gibbs' workload divide has a megawatt offload that if you compartmentalize the component conjunction timekeeper and you flux capacitor out the continuum component megabolt, things just end up happening. And that's why Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 5 to 10 running back instead of top 6 to 10. And for the last one, so we've hit Bijan. Oh, we got this one for Bijan, by the way.
Your Bijan card has been revoked.
So if anybody doesn't know, those are the animations for those guys. Available upon request with any $20 hauler, I might add. Just say what one you want if you drop a $20 hauler at any moment during a live stream. But Bijan, Kyron, Hall, Gibbs. And now for the long-awaited, brand new, newest edition of the animation and video family, the Devon H-Hand video, ladies and gentlemen. And with this, we will be out of here. So appreciate you. Enjoy the spectacle.
H-Hand. H-Hand is the man. His haters call him small.
But he is 9 feet tall.
H-Hand!
A-Chan is the man.
Live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, every single Monday through Friday, live when big news breaks. I'll see you all later. Thanks for watching this live premiere. Again, on these, I'm in the live chat as this premieres live, almost like a live TV show, and then you can obviously watch the replays as much as your heart is content. But these are live premieres. Thank you for joining me for a live premiere.